All right, everyone, welcome to ANC3F monthly general meeting. Welcome tonight. We've got a full night tonight. I would like to now call the meeting to order. And Commissioner Appa, if you can, I will make you co-host. If you can help out with that, with letting people in.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to, I think that the next business of order is to approve the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda, including the consent items?
And Commissioner David, I have one question about the agenda. Did you see there's the ask to add the L1 bus resolution? Did you see that note? I think it came from Commissioner Wall earlier.
Yes.
Tonight's agenda.
Correct. Thanks, Commissioner Castillo. This is a new resolution. It is following the lead of ANC3C to support restoration of L1 bus service along the Connecticut Avenue corridor. So I would like us to add that to the agenda if we can for consideration and vote this evening, and we'll read it when that comes up.
Okay. Are there any other items to add to the agenda?
Yes, I was also hoping to bring in a voting on a special exemption for 2916 Upton Street.
Okay, 2916 Upton Street, resolution on L1 bus. That would, so I'm thinking all the resolutions would be together. So that would be after the Senior Wellness Center agenda item. And then the 2016 Upton Street would be without permit. So that'll be the last item to discuss under permit. So that'll be after 2930. Is there anything else to add to the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay. So, okay, Stan, you seconded?
Yes.
All right, have we got, we've got.
Excuse me for 1 minute. I'm sorry, excuse me. I don't see the emergency resolution regarding the trees in Soapstone on the agenda.
Okay.
So I'd like to make sure that also gets on the, unless I'm missing it, Commissioner David.
We need to add that right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so you want to add?
Yeah, I would like it. I'd like to add to the agenda a proposed resolution urging Councilmember Che to seek a stop work emergency order for the removal and pruning of a large number of trees in Soapstone Valley.
All right. Have we got a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes.
Change to the agenda. Okay.
Yeah. So I move to approve the agenda as amended, including Commissioner Maida's addition.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda. All the commissioners, are there commissioners for the approval of the agenda?
Second. Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
All right, everyone approves. So we've got the agenda approved as amended.
And then
Okay.
also Commissioner David, sorry to interrupt again. Regarding Commissioner Mehta's resolution, would that be after the L1 bus service one? Is that everything in terms of scheduling and everything?
Right, so we'll have the resolution, we've got the DOT, DDOT, resolution for Forest Hills. Then we've got the calming traffic resolution. We've got the senior wellness resolution. And then we'll have the L1 bus resolution and then the tree removal resolution. And
Gotcha.
then
Thank you so
we'll-
much.
Yep, and then we'll go into the permits. All right, if we've approved the agenda along with the consent items on the agenda. Have we got any updates from the commissioners? We'll start with Commissioner Castile, and then I'll go to Commissioner Meta.
Thank you, Chair David. So one small victory in the transportation front. Last year, the neighbors from Van Ness got together and put together a resolution on essentially traffic calming measures on Van Ness. And DDOT did their study of some of those measures. And one thing that we got notice on last month was reducing the speed limit on Van Ness from Connecticut on the east to Wisconsin on the west, from 25 miles per hour down to 20 miles per hour. And so that's going to be, they've got a comment period up until February 25th, but that's what they're recommending. So that really is I know it's a small victory, but it's a victory and shows that this process that we've been going through, is working. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Castile. Commissioner Meta.
Are you calling on me for the resolution?
Oh, no, any updates?
Oh, no, I do not have any updates. Thank you.
Sorry, no problem.
Sorry.
Commissioner, no problem. Commissioner Appa, have you got any updates?
The only update I have, this is more for my SMD. I did have a chance. I know there's been some conversation, especially my SMD, that is surrounding safety. I did have a chance to talk to our building management. I have a commitment from our building management to be able to talk to them once a month in order to talk about safety, to talk about maintenance issues, and also to really work with them in order to get a lot of the issues resolved in our building. So if any folks are in 3003 Van Ness, please know that I'm working hard in conjunction with our building management to try to ensure that they are responsive to the residents and many of the issues that you have raised. So that's an update, but specifically for SMD. So no other updates.
Thank you, Commissioner Alpha. Commissioner Tanderick.
I have no current updates.
Okay, great. Commissioner Namath.
Hi there. So I do have one update. There was an issue in my SMD regarding an Airbnb house. There were some people who had posted about this to the Cleveland Park listserv recently, and I just wanted to give the community an update about it. This was a house that had sort of all of a sudden became what seemed like a party house, and people were complaining about it, rightly so. It's actually not far from my house, and I heard when the police were called out because I was woken up in the middle of the night twice in the last month by this. So I did speak with the owner of the property. The owner of the property actually is a young man who inherited the property from his father, who passed away a couple of years ago. And the young man is currently in law school out of state and will be returning when he graduates this at the end of the spring semester. He was appalled that this was happening. He's been renting out as an Airbnb occasionally because he's a law student and he needs to be able to afford to pay the upkeep on the house, and he will be moving back into it in a couple of months once he completes his studies. So we think we have a way forward. We think we've put a stop to it. He's going to make sure he screens people more carefully and have them sign appropriate documents to keep this from happening, and hopefully we'll have peace and quiet in the neighborhood again. But that is the latest update since I know there's got some chatter on the Cleveland Park listserv.
Thank you, Commissioner Namath. Commissioner Wall.
Thanks, Chair David. And I'll use my time for the Treasury update as well, if I may.
Thank you.
From a Treasury standpoint, we approved our quarterly report as part of the consent agenda. During the first fiscal quarter ending December 31st, we received our district allotment of $13,794.03. We earned about $92 of interest on our account, and we have a total funds available of $65,533 in our account. There are costs that we incurred. One was personnel costs for our accounting support, as well as some bank charges representing some fraudulent charges on our account that we will need to file claims for to get reimbursement, leaving us with $62,110 in our account as of the end of the year. For everyone who's on this call, this will be posted to our website in terms of being able to review our quarterly financial report for the ANC. The second announcement is on grants. So as part of our guidelines, ANC3F considers grants twice a year in March and then again in October. So we are planning to have grants, actually seeking, those in the community who are seeking grant support for, community supporting activities to review our guidelines on our website and submit your grants by the end of March. We'll be pulling together a flyer that we want to use to publicize this through the connection and other means, just to make sure that people are aware. And then we will vote and consider those grant applications in our April meeting, again, in accordance with our guidelines. So just a heads up that there'll be more information coming, and to check out our website for information on the grants process. That is it for my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wall. Now we'll be going into our regular agenda. So we'll be discussing, we've got a couple of resolutions, we've got about 4 or 5 resolutions and 3 permits, and then we'll go into our discussion about the days in. So the first resolution will be on a resolution urging DDOT to address dangerous traffic safety conditions in Forest Hills. I will share my screen in a moment to bring up the resolution. Forest Hills. Got a number of what can you see up so far, actually?
Commissioner Chair David, that's the L1 bus resolution that looks like it's kind of moving from your screen and it's stuck.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. For Forest Hills, I had it up. Do you see the Forest Hills resolution?
No, it's still the L1 resolution. It might be good to like stop sharing your screen and try it again and see what happens.
Let me see.
You're good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner David. Should I take it from here?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
So the subject of this resolution actually goes back to my first 6 months in my term as commissioner. I noticed that the largest number of direct contacts to me by email were around traffic safety conditions. And the majority of them centered around 4 particular segments of streets in Forest Hills, intersections that are highly trafficked, sidewalk segments that are missing that lead to that are part of walking routes for kids to Merch and to the Forest Hills Playground, and for people in general up to the Politics and Pros commercial area. So we put together a walking, sort of walk and talk with Christian Pinheiro of DDOT, who was the Ward 3 Community Engagement Specialist at DDOT, and Tony Donaldson, who was at the time the Ward 3 liaison for the mayor's office, and several members of the Forest Hills residents community also joined the walk around. Fast forward to January 21st, when we submitted a very comprehensive memo identifying the conditions in Forest Hills that are of concern and specific safety measures proposed. After that memorandum was submitted, and I apologize, that should probably be on the ANC's website. We'll get that up, Commissioner David, after this meeting, so that the community can read it. Following that meeting, following that submission, excuse me, I received a note from Linda Bailey at DDOT, who deals specifically with missing sidewalk segments. And that piece of the memorandum and the request regarding missing sidewalk segments on Fessenden Street is being treated separately by DDOT as part of its missing sidewalk segments process. In the meantime, our very hardworking Streets and Sidewalks Committee Chair, Robert Daling, is here, and I will introduce him to describe the resolution and to eventually put it up for a vote tonight.
Thank you. I don't know if I can be seen. This is Bob Dealing. Can I be heard?
I
Yes.
hear you,
Yes. Okay, good. At least you hear me. Well, thank you, Commissioner Mehta. The resolution's on the screen. I'll just be very brief to describe it. As the Streets and Sidewalks Committee was able to have a discussion about this at our meeting last Wednesday. The resolution deals with many issues, a variety of traffic calming and issues, a speed limit issue that should be easy to resolve. The speed limit is now 20 miles per hour on all of the affected streets, yet most of the signage still says 25. So that's one item that the resolution is hoping to address. And I guess the sidewalks issues are going to be taken care of in a separate track. Streets and Sidewalks Committee has been working diligently for quite a few years now to try to get some of the missing sidewalks throughout the ANC constructed. And then finally, the resolution, I think maybe for the first time, suggests that our ANC might use this new DDOT fast track procedure to try to address some of the specific traffic related and safety related issues that are laid out in, I guess, mainly in the memo that Commissioner Mehta described. So that's the point of this resolution. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the process is that it gets raised tonight and then there's a 30-day discussion period. So that's all I think about, all I need to say right now.
Thank you, Bob. So as Bob mentioned, the sort of sum and substance of the measures being requested involve restricting cut-through traffic during peak rush hours, posting the new 20-mile-per-hour speed limit signs consistently throughout the neighborhood, painting of crosswalks that are missing, and installation of sidewalk segments that are missing, and driver feedback cameras. Once this resolution gets passed, I will file it in the new fast track process, as Bob mentioned. And we are supposed to hear back within a certain number of days, depending on the kind of measure we're being requested. So I would like, I don't know, is it appropriate for me to make the motion or?
Well, I think we should maybe do a discussion, like if any commissioners have any questions, or if anyone
Right, okay.
has any questions.
Only comment is, as part of this, I mean, in our language, in the therefores, when we put together our resolutions, one of the final statements is we we always have a statement authorizing which commissioners are authorized to speak on behalf of the ANC regarding this resolution. So, and you can like look at past resolutions to see how that's exactly phrased, but we do need to identify now, like who those individuals are, and they're approved as part of the motion. So I'm assuming Deepa.
Yeah, I would like to suggest that since it's my SMD, that I be the commissioner approved to speak on behalf of the commission with respect to this resolution.
And we usually name a second, just in case you're not available.
Commissioner Wall, would you like to join me in that, since your SMD is adjacent to and I guess technically parts of it are in Forest Hills?
I'd be happy to, definitely.
Great, thank you.
And that's my only comment. I
Okay.
support this.
Thank you. We have a question from the community from Geo. Does it include east of Connecticut Avenue for 20 miles per hour? Couldn't find resolution online.
I think I could respond to that question. I saw it in an email earlier today and was going to respond. My understanding is that when resolutions are put forward, they will be posted on the ANC website, but after the meeting. So that answers one of the questions. I think the other question has to do with the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit east of Connecticut Avenue. And I believe the answer is yes. I think all the affected streets are already in the 20-mile-per-hour zone that is supposed to be applied everywhere. The main issue, I think, is enforcement and signage. A lot of the signage has not been changed. So that is part of the resolution.
All right.
That's my understanding as well. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, any other questions from the community? Any questions from the commissioners? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second,
That
Commissioner or Chair David, it looks like there is one question from someone with their hand up P in the audience.
yes, P. You can unmute. You have a question?
Since the sidewalk committee is there, I've been since Kubler was the ANC rep, requesting that the sidewalk at 3003 Van Ness, it buckles. It's a hazard for handicap. It's a it keeps growing and nothing seems to be done. I can't get anyone to respond, and the city has been on Van Ness Street doing work, but that has never been resolved. It's I can send you pictures, but for the since Kubler first got in office, and I've tried to request Alex to do it, and nothing seems to be done. It's a definite hazard, and the Van Ness Tennis Association has even documented it. So I don't know what else to do. Also on your website, you have posted the UDC 10-year plan, but American University and Howard are both not on there. And I'd like an update on the Whittle School. And also if UDC is still considering partnering with a private partnership to make Fannie Mae a dorm. Where does that stand? Also, in Alex, in your last Zoom call, you said that you were meeting with Josh then,
Sorry, excuse me.
but we've never gotten an update on
Sorry,
what
we're gonna have to-
exactly is happening. So
Sorry, we appreciate, there is going to be time for community questions later. And right now we're working on the resolutions. If you do have questions, we do absolutely encourage you to use the chat. We're happy to take community questions and feedback if they're brief, but it really should be specific to the agenda item that we're working on currently. So happy to take your feedback. I did see your email earlier this week. I am in the process of responding. I have talked to Josh. I am providing an update. I will be providing an update shortly as well. I'll be having a community meeting later in March. So we appreciate if folks can continue to be focused on the particular agenda item, but we will get to your questions.
Okay, thank you. And if you can connect her with Bob Dealing on the question of the sidewalk. But on the resolution, if there are no other questions, comments about the resolution at hand, can I get a motion in a second to vote on the resolution?
I think we already had the motion, so we just need to call the question.
All right. All in favor of voting for the resolution urging DDOT to implement traffic safety measures in Forest Hills as identified in the memorandum to DDOT dated January 21st, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we have approved this resolution. I will stop sharing my screen. The next resolution at hand is a resolution in support of accelerated and additional traffic calming measures for Connecticut Avenue. Let me share my screen in 2 seconds. Who is speaking on that resolution?
It might be me, Bob Dealing. This did come from the Streets and Sidewalks Committee, although Commissioner Christine was kind of keeping track of the latest amendments to the draft that was put out for comment a month ago.
Can everyone see it? The resolution regarding expedited implementation of Connecticut Avenue corridor safety improvements.
Not there.
yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet.
It's
Second. I had it. Give me 1 second. We've got a lot of resolutions, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Can you see that?
still just your screen sharing. It doesn't say, there's no document showing.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Hold on.
Commissioner David, this is something I do have. You want me to share my screen? If that would-
Yeah, sure. I think I'll just have to make you a co-host.
Let's see if it's,
Just have to enable screen sharing.
all right, here we go. Whoops.
I see your email.
Yeah, I do too. All right, let's see if this works. How's that?
Good.
All right.
All right.
So Mr. Dealing, take it away. This is the resolution we had in draft form in January 18th.
Yes. So this has been out for comment for a month now. We didn't get a whole lot of comments that were of substance. The Streets and Sidewalks Committee reviewed this again a few days ago and added a few really editorial changes that were implemented, I think. The point of this resolution, of course, is to ask DDOT to, in advance of any implementation of the chosen redesign for Connecticut Avenue, to actually implement some of what they call the corridor safety improvements that were identified throughout the course of the Connecticut Avenue Safety Study. Many of these corridor safety improvements were identified in the study, and it was stated, of course, in many public meetings that these safety improvements could be implemented regardless of the way the avenue is redesigned. So now that we have a redesign choice, we know it will take several years to implement, but we're asking DDOT to please do what they can in the near term on some of the other issues that would, I think, greatly enhance safety for pedestrians and drivers also, and everyone on the avenue for that matter. That's really it. It's been pending for 30 days. I think your process is to vote on it. I don't know exactly what else is left to be done.
All right, have we got any questions from, so now we're in discussion mode. Have we got any questions from the commissioners? Any questions from the community? We'll start with commissioners. Any questions from the commissioners? No questions from the commissioners?
I don't have any questions, but again, we'll need to authorize, like right above your name where it says who's going to be authorized to speak on it, and where you're filling in your name, Commissioner David, that's actually going to be for your signature. So you have to print it out and actually sign that there.
Oops.
Okay, so we'll have Commissioner David Castile name on there. Okay. Any questions from the community?
Chair David, I do have one. I guess it's more of a comment, and I do want to recognize, I think MPD is on the call with us. I did notice, I think it was about a week ago, last weekend, that MPD was doing a significant amount of enforcement in the Connecticut corridor along the commercial area of Van Ness. And I just want to, again, express appreciation. This was speeding enforcement in terms of they had a number of vehicles pulled over in the corridor right around the core of the commercial area. So this is part of it in terms of helping to fix the physical conditions, but also want to recognize and appreciate the enforcement that has been stepped up by MPD.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner Wall. Have we got any questions from the community? I don't see any questions, no hands up. Can I get a motion and a second to vote on the resolution?
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution in its updated form that was shown as a draft last month in January.
Second,
Sorry, I see a hand up. Luis Sokol, is there a question about the resolution?
Yes, it states that there were fatalities on Connecticut Avenue in this area. That's one of the reasons for the safety measures. How many fatalities were there in, say, 2021 to ask for this change to be made?
There's a question on fatalities on this resolution.
Mr. Sokol, I'm not aware of any fatalities. I don't know if Commissioner Wall or anybody else. I know we have somebody from MPD here that might be able to answer that as well.
Didn't it mention in the resolution that the part of the reason for the resolution is because of fatalities?
I can take that. I think part of the reason for the resolution is we are trying to stay in line. Maybe Bob, you may also want to chime in here, but we are trying to stay in accordance with the mayor's Vision Zero effort. And so this is part of that effort to ensure that all residents continue to stay safe in the community, whether they're walking, biking, or driving. So I don't know if there's anything else that wants to add, or any other commissioners.
I could jump in for just a minute and add that there is a very detailed website for the Connecticut Avenue Safety Study where you can find all the data that they relied on in the study. They looked way back many years on not just traffic fatalities, but all sorts of traffic accidents, pedestrian related incidents, et cetera. So it's all there. I don't think this resolution mentions the fatalities at all. It's really a reference to what DDOT has already done in terms of their own evidence gathering and the recommendations that they have already made for what they call the corridor safety improvements.
If I may as well, Lieutenant Stephen Amadeo for the police department. I'm not aware of any traffic fatalities on the Connecticut Avenue corridor for 2021, but I'll take a look at the resolution and double check. Mr. Sokol, I can get back to you. But it would be my estimation that that's in accordance with the Vision Zero initiative as well.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yes, I'm just looking at the language in the resolution myself, and I think the language itself is essentially language from DDOT about Vision Zero, because it says reducing speed limit to 30 to 25 to reduce fatal crashes and promote safety. I think that's just a Vision Zero line in and of itself without specifically referencing.
If there are no fatal crashes, then why are you implementing more safety measures? Because of fatalities.
I think this is about prevention. And so there are fatalities across the district, and this is about prevention. We're trying to prevent deaths from happening.
But if Connecticut Avenue has no fatalities, then there's no reason to implement anti-fatality measures.
I think it's also, just to chime in, and then we'll probably have to move on to the next resolution. We appreciate your question, Louis. It is, as Commissioner Castile said, about prevention, but also remember the concept C is also about the reversible lane study as well. So that was also part of it. So, we highly encourage, and we're happy to drop the DDOT study in the chat here for you to definitely read through the study to ensure that you understand all the various aspects of this. And we've, as an ANC, have been talking about this probably for the past year or so. And so, I think this resolution is still warranted to continue to ensure safety and that there will be no fatalities, as we absolutely don't want that.
And if I could add something, it's not just fatalities, it's near fatalities, it's injuries, it's damage to property, it's damage to cars.
Absolutely.
Trying to prevent there. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that we've had a motion and a second, we're ready to vote. All in favor for the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution is approved. Thank you. We are now going to move on to the resolution in support of Senior Wellness Center in Ward 3. We discussed this in the last meeting. And other Ward 3 ANCs have discussed it. Do you see the resolution up on your end? For the
Yes.
Senior Wellness Center?
Yes.
Yes.
Zach Toshman, did you want to speak on the resolution from our Neighborhoods and Housing Committee? But the basis of the resolution is just to have a Senior Wellness Center in Ward 3. We don't have any amenities for seniors in Ward 3 at all, like other wards. And so we're pretty much in favor of one, along with the other ward, the other ANCs in Ward 3. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
No questions, just comment A, question is who's gonna speak to this, who are gonna authorize to speak to this, and I'll just say, like I mentioned in the last meeting, this is an issue I've heard about for years, that we don't have a senior wellness center, and it's about time that we get one. So I am very much in favor of this resolution, because Ward 3 desperately needs one.
Are there any questions from the community? Does anyone see any questions from the community? I can't see anything. Can I get a motion?
Oh, sorry, Commissioner David, there was a hand raised from P.
How does one find out the information before they used to put it out when these decisions were being made? And I think the Wellness Center is very good, but there's been no way of knowing or being able to comment on some of these transportation issues. I wrote in the question my concerns about it. And this is, and you're right, it has been bounced around for quite some time, for many years. And is there still going to be the pedestrian bridge? Is there still going to be over Connecticut Avenue connecting the Van Ness metros? And is there still going to be another elevator like they've done in Roslyn and Pentagon City?
Okay, thank you. So we're on the resolution about senior wellness center. So you'll have to hold that question till the end, please. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve?
A second.
We do need to identify who's going to speak to this resolution.
I will speak on it, and so I'll speak on it.
Okay, do you want to name a second?
Feel free to put my name on it, Commissioner David.
Thank you, Deepa. It'll be myself and Deepa.
Okay.
Thank you. Now we're up for a vote. All in favor for the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. The resolution is approved. Now we will move on to the resolution on the L1 bus.
Thank you, Chair David. I'll introduce this and also turn it over to Mr. Daling, head of our Streets and Sidewalk Committee, to talk more about the need. And I'm happy to share this on my screen, I think, if you haven't gotten this version yet. If that's okay.
Yeah, if you could share your screen, that would be
Okay. Can folks see that resolution?
Yes.
Yep.
I will turn it over to you, Mr. Daling, to walk us through this, please.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Thank you, Commissioner Wall. And the L1 bus, for those of you who didn't know about it, used to run on Connecticut Avenue before the pandemic. It was one of the two L buses, runs mainly rush hour, but it takes people to areas downtown and in Foggy Bottom that the L2 bus does not go to. And so there has been a lot of interest, as the city is reopening and people are getting back down to various workplaces, et cetera, in rejuvenating the L1 bus service. But as far as we know, there is no plan to do that right now, I gather, because of budgetary concerns. And so we, on the Streets and Sidewalks Committee anyway, noted that the ANC3C, if I'm not mistaken, had already passed a resolution requesting that funds be put in the budget for the reinstatement, I guess is the word, of the L1 bus. And after some discussion last week at our meeting, we thought it might be a good idea considering that the L1 bus goes right through ANC3F. If we could support their resolution and, more to the point, have our own resolution asking DDOT and the appropriate agencies to put money in the budget to get this bus back in commission, so to speak. That's really the only point here. It's a pretty simple resolution. Don't know if you have the therefores visible, but it basically requests that money be put in the budget there at the end, including funds in the budget for fiscal year 2023. That's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Daling. Appreciate that. And we would like to vote on this today. This does kind of go against our normal procedure of giving the community notice on resolutions. However, given the fact that budget discussions will be commencing, actually have already commenced, both with WMATA and the District of Columbia, we want to make sure that we get this, approved as quickly as possible, so we can work with Councilmember Che and WMATA to push for this to be restored. So for that reason, we wanted to move through this and vote today. I also want to add one additional whereas to actually recognize WMATA for restoration of service on the L2 line. So they have increased service on that line, both frequency of service as well as extending the period of time till 2 a.m. for that bus line. And that's to be applauded. We just want to have additional service to reach other parts of the city to Foggy Bottom. And we want to make sure that this service doesn't replace any L2 service. So we want the existing L2 service, but we don't want any of the L1 service to replace the service that's been restored on the L2. So just 2 points to confirm there as part of this effort. But any questions? I guess Chair David, I'll turn it back to you to facilitate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Wall. Commissioners, do you have any questions? And then we'll turn it over to the community for any questions.
Just one quick question. So the L1 bus, to clarify, so it starts at the top, like Chevy Chase Circle, and then it kind of goes down Connecticut Avenue and then ends at Foggy Bottom. I'm just trying to get a sense of like generically what are like the major neighborhoods the L1 bus would hit.
Correct. They both originate up in Chevy Chase, and the L2 runs down Connecticut, turns left and goes to Adams Morgan along Calvert Street and Columbia Road. It comes back to Connecticut, and then it goes down to Farragut Square where it terminates. The L1 also starts at Friendship Heights. It runs straight down Connecticut. It does not go through Adams Morgan. Instead, it actually turns right on Columbia and heads toward Foggy Bottom, terminating right around Virginia Avenue in Foggy Bottom. So essentially it connects a lot of people to GW Hospital, GW University, World Bank and other locations that are over in that part of the town. So it connects a lot of folks to the employment center as well as to healthcare around GW. So that's kind of the difference.
So as someone who takes the L2 bus for work pretty often, having another bus on Connecticut Avenue would be awesome. Just because there's so many ways in which you can go from Connecticut Avenue across different parts of the city. So yeah, personally, it'd be great to have another bus along Connecticut Avenue.
And I do want to reflect the comment of our neighbor, Ms. Kraft. Absolutely, the L1 is indeed, part of the overall measure of getting people out of cars, reducing traffic and getting people into transit to, again, make Connecticut Avenue corridor that much safer. So it is very much consistent with the other efforts we're advancing this evening.
Are there any questions? Any more questions from commissioners or comments?
A comment I have is I was out this weekend collecting signatures, and this is something that I heard from a number of people that I spoke to in the community. And even before I was out this weekend, this is an important topic to a lot of people. We need this bus service restored, bottom line. So I fully support this. It's something that people have been talking about, and they need it.
Thank you, Commissioner Namath. Any other comments from commissioners, questions? Any comments from the community? I don't see any hands up. I don't see any questions in the comments. Can I get a motion to vote on the resolution?
I would like to make, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution regarding support for reinstating the L1 bus line, including funds in the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority budget for fiscal year 2023.
Second,
All right, ready for vote? All in favor? Say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion has been approved. Thank you, Commissioner Wall.
And excuse me, Chair David, just extending a thank you again to Mr. Daling and the Streets and Sidewalk Committee for again doing the heavy lift on pulling all these things together for the safety and mobility in the corridor. So thank you again.
All right, thank you. We've got one more resolution. We've got one more resolution on a tree removal resolution.
That would be me.
All right, let me see if I could share my screen really quickly. Can anyone see that?
Yes.
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 Thank you, Commissioner David.
Okay, Deepa, you're on.
Okay, so to put this in a little bit of context, this is an emergency resolution to the tune of basically having drafted it between late last night and today, and with the input of certain fellow commissioners also involved in this project. The contextual framework for this is the Soapstone Valley Sewer Rehabilitation Project, which is DC Water owns that project, and the purpose of it is to rehabilitate sanitary sewers, manholes, stormwater sewers, and outfalls located in Soapstone Valley Park, which is, as many of you know, a very popular walking trail, including for the kids who go to school at Franklin Montessori, but for our community and beyond, folks come over here to use that trail and to enjoy it. Especially in the warmer weather. So over the past 10 years or so, DC Water has been thinking about how to rehabilitate those assets in the Soapstone Valley Park. And over the past year plus, a lot of questions have been raised by our community regarding the technology chosen by DC Water to implement the rehabilitation of those assets, and in particular, the thermal cured in place pipe technology. We're not here tonight to debate that technology, and we're not here tonight to debate the efficacy of any alternate technologies. What this resolution proposes is that Council Member Che immediately secure a stop work order under the emergency powers of the City Council to prevent the removal and pruning of more than 500 trees in preparation in order to prepare the site for the rehabilitation work. Excuse me, sorry about that. In order to prepare the Soapstone Valley site for the rehabilitation work. At this point, there are just an incredible number of outstanding questions around the environmental impacts, both for the soil, water, and air in Soapstone Valley, as well as the human health and safety risks for people who live around Soapstone Valley, people who do business there, patrons who do business there, and of course the kids who go to Franklin Montessori School and anybody else frankly passing by. As I understand it, that the thermal technology is the one that DC Water is stating it will proceed with, and it is clear based on significant input from community members that the harm that would result to the residents and the environment around Soapstone is truly irreparable. It's irreversible. If 500 trees get taken down and or pruned, they cannot be replaced overnight. If people ingest toxins and environmental VOCs, that also cannot be reversed. We were informed, the reason for the urgent nature of this is that the commission was informed late last Friday on February 11th that DC Water, despite the ongoing conversations and questions that were made out there around this project, DC Water has decided to nonetheless simply proceed as it has planned without addressing those questions. And in particular, they plan to do so because it looks to me like in large part because they have an agreement with a contractor and are probably locked into some obligation that they locked into without adequately reviewing all the different technologies and their efficacies and impacts fully before committing to that particular technology. So that in and of itself seems like a entirely unacceptable reason to go forward with a project and to take down a bunch of trees, hundreds of trees, I should say, for a project that has not exactly been verified and supported with science-based data. So the resolution is to, number one, urge Council Member Che, who the ANC, by the way, has been coordinating with and cooperating with and working in tandem with, to immediately get the City Council to prevent the removal of those trees. And second, to continue pursuing answers to the questions raised in Council Member Che's letter to Director Tommy Wells of DOEE around the environmental health and safety risks associated with the thermal CIPP technology that was chosen by DC Water last year, despite the many concerns and serious concerns raised by constituents and by the ANC.
Thank you, Commissioner Mehta. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Questions or comments from the commissioners? And then we'll go to the community.
I have one quick comment, Chair David. And thank you, Commissioner Mehta, for pulling us all together and continue to help keep us moving toward ensuring that we have a safe project for the community. I do want to express that we do want to see this project ultimately happen, because we realize that there is a need to repair this failing sewer before it fails completely and creates lack of service for this area. However, saying that, we just want to make sure that the project that does move forward is in fact the safest project for the community and the safest project for the environment, and that DC Water brings the community along with them in understanding how it's arrived at these decisions and how it actually plans to protect both people and the environment in this effort. So just want to express again our support for the ultimate project, but doing it in the way that's as safe and for people and the environment as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wall. Any other comments or questions from other commissioners? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the community?
I see a comment from Kathy asking whether alternative remediation methods require less or different tree removal. And Kathy says that minimizing tree removal should be paramount regardless of technology. Kathy, thanks for that question. It's my understanding that the ultraviolet technology, it does not require the mass of heavy equipment that has to be brought into soapstone, and therefore would require far fewer trees to be removed in order to conduct the project. So the answer to your question it is my understanding, yes, that's the case. And I will certainly invite, I realize this is the commissioner portion, but I will certainly invite other constituents who I know are present in this meeting and frankly know a lot more than me around this issue. So if any of those constituents would like to raise their hand or just speak up at this point, that would be super helpful, because I know that you are far more versed in this than me.
Commissioner Mehta, hi, it's Marjorie Scher. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for
good.
joining.
You're welcome. Thank you for all that you're doing, everyone. And to answer Kathy's question, absolutely, that UV does not require the heavy equipment vehicles, the boiler trucks, the refrigerator trucks, the flagmen. It's much smaller vehicles. And our understanding from DC Water is that these heavy vehicles, the number of trees will be cut down to allow for the heavy vehicles and the pathways. So the smaller and narrower the pathways, the fewer trees will need to come down. And in addition to the number of trees that will be taken down or pruned, there's also obviously compaction from the heavy vehicles. And they even say that in the FONSI. So there will be destruction beyond the exact number of trees that will be taken down, cut down. And they leave an awful lot. The last thing I'll say is they leave a lot to the contractor. They say in Fonzie, and I think they're doing this week, that NPS, DC Water, and the contractor are walking the property to look at the LOD, the limits of disturbance, to decide whether they should be expanded. And they will make changes accordingly, and could even take down more trees if need be.
Thank you, Marjorie. I'm also going to ask Mr. Alvarez, who I believe is on this call, to put a link in the chat in response to Marcia's comment in the chat about the water that is being the meeting that is not the water, the meeting that is being held by DC Water on Thursday evening. This topic is on the agenda. And I would urge, I'm going to do my best to be there. I'm traveling during part of that time, but I would urge people, not just on this in this meeting, but also in our community at large, to join that meeting and see if we can't use all of our different levers to at least temporarily suspend. We're not trying to stop this project, as Commissioner Wall mentioned, but to temporarily suspend this so everyone can take a deep breath and figure out which technology makes the most sense in Soapstone Valley.
There is one question. Has DC Department of the Environment weighed in on the loss of the trees?
Thank you for that question, Barbara. I had actually, as recently as just a couple of hours ago, I received a response from Mr. Hours. The short answer to your question is no. DOE has not, to my knowledge, weighed in on the loss of the trees. But Mr. Hours from DOE, who is in charge of the Air Quality Division, assures me that he is looking into whether an air quality permit is required for the CIPP process that DC Water has chosen. And if not, I have asked him to document for us why one is not required, given the emissions that are expected to occur during the CIPP process. Barbara, the short answer to the question is not yet regarding the trees, and the air quality division of the DOE is considering the permit issue regarding air emissions.
Have we got any more questions from the community? Does anyone?
And before this comes up, I will just mention that Commissioner Wall and I are going to be authorized, unless there's any objection, going to be authorized by the commission to speak on behalf of the commission on this matter going forward, as we have been for the past month since our last meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Mehta. Have I got a motion and a second on this resolution?
I would like to make a motion to approve this resolution to urge Councilmember Che to secure an emergency stop work order, prevent DC Water from cutting down or prevent pruning trees in Soapstone Valley for the sewer rehabilitation project.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wall. Was that Commissioner Tanderick that second that? All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Right, we have the resolution is approved.
I'd like to make one more comment, Commissioner David. The communication that was received from DC Water, I understood sort of belatedly that it was not the same communication that was shared with the community. Commissioner Wall and I had posed 3 very specific and sort of pointed questions, I suppose, to DC Water a couple of weeks ago. They were the ones that we got responses to last Friday, February 11th. For anyone who's interested, I will ensure that these questions and responses are posted on the ANC's website within the next 24 hours. And I urge everybody to take a look at them, please. Anyone who's interested in this topic.
Thank you, Commissioner Mehta. Now we'll be moving to the permits. So we have 3 special exceptions. First up is 2940 Brandywine Street.
Yeah, and for those of you who are tired of listening to my voice, I apologize because the next 3 items on the agenda are for me or in my SMD. So 2940 Brandywine Street, I have met with the applicants and visited the site twice. The proposal is to, not the proposal, the request is to consider a special exception relief for the construction of an accessory dwelling unit, ADU, be in the back portion of a deep lot. And Mr. Dreisen, who is the applicant, is here tonight. I will turn it over to Mr. Dreisen to explain the scope of the exception and the project.
Thank you, Mr. Dreisen.
Thank you, Commissioner Mehta, Commissioner David. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Carl Driesen. My wife Anna and I have lived near Forest Hills for over 23 years with our 2 children, one who is in college and another adult child who lives at home. Since our son has a disability, we're planning to build an additional dwelling unit in our backyard where we currently have an old garage. We are requesting 2 zoning exceptions for this project. The first exception is on the footprint of the ADU. And on the handout, you can see a shaded area in the upper right-hand corner, or diagonally striped. That is our current garage. And then the red areas is that the increase of the footprint that the ADU would imply. So that is regarding the first exception. The second exception is for a balcony on top of the screened porch, and you can see that in the middle image. We have a screened porch, and on top of that, we were thinking of having a balcony. So that requires a special exception as well. We have discussed the ADU plans with our neighbors, and we answered their questions, which related to improved security, maintenance of privacy, and proper drainage. We are not aware of any objections to our plans. The property will improve the property, the plan will improve the property in a number of ways. We will replace the relatively ugly garage that you can see there with a nicely designed building. As part of this, we will increase the pervious surface by about 400 square feet because we're removing all of the asphalt that now leads to that garage. We also plan to install solar panels on the roof, and we will be installing EV chargers. So overall, I think the project will be a nice addition to the neighborhood. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners?
Thank you, Mr. Dreesen. I'll also add that Mr. Dreesen has shared with me along the way the questions that have been just informational questions raised by neighbors, and I'm aware that he has responded to their satisfaction. I will also add that I am recommending, following the question and answer period, I'm recommending that both exceptions requested by the applicants be supported and approved by the commission.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Castillo.
Yeah, it's really a comment. I mean, this is great, Mr. Dreesen. So, there's a housing shortage problem challenge in this community, and part of the solution are these accessory dwelling units. And I'm looking at this lot. This looks like an appropriate expansion of your garage, and so I applaud you for doing this. This is exactly what's needed, and I know it's not everywhere and every single family house or yard that has this option, but there are a lot of yards in this community that have that option. And so we're encourage people that are out there listening to this, that this is really, this is one housing alternative to addressing a need that's in the community. So thanks for bringing this to us. Happy to support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Castillo. Commissioner Wall.
Similarly, this is not a question. This is more of a comment as well. And my comment is actually a very big thank you for the way that you have worked with your neighbors to address their concerns. and to design your project in a way that mitigates their concerns and improves upon conditions in the neighborhood. So thank you very much for that consideration of your neighbors.
Thank you, Commissioner Wall. Any other commissioners, questions or comments? Any questions from the community? Any questions from the community? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the two special exceptions requested for the project at 2940 Brandywine Street.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Christie, second. Commissioner Meadows' motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it looks like everyone's in favor. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll be moving on to the second special exception for 3200 Ellicott Street. Is that Commissioner Mehta, is that you as well?
Who else would it be? Okay, all right, without further ado, 3200 Ellicott Street is a matter that was previously discussed at the commission level, and the applicants following that discussion chose to withdraw their request for a vote at that particular meeting in an effort to work out with their neighbors' objections regarding the original proposal. As a quick reminder, the original proposal was for an accessory dwelling unit on this corner lot at 3200 Ellicott Street. You can see the drawing that Commissioner David has put up on the screen. Today, that ADU has been revamped as a two-story addition. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. and Mrs. Glyer, the applicants at 3200 Ellicott, to explain their request.
Thank you, Commissioner Mehta, and thanks to the Commission for including us on the agenda. As you can see, we are here today with a much revised compromise proposal that has incorporated the feedback from the Commission and has addressed a lot of concerns that were raised at the November meeting. I wanted to start by sharing a little bit about why this project is important to us. We moved in 2019. We have two young children. Right now, we have a kindergartner at Merch and an almost 4-year-old at preschool across the street. And we are also facing, as many folks are in this sort of sandwich generation, aging parents. Currently we have 4 living parents between the two of us, which is fantastic. They are all in their 70s. They are pretty healthy, but starting to feel the effects of being in their 70s. We've had some heart surgeries. We've had some joint replacements in recent years, and our parents live thousands of miles away from us. So it is at this point impossible for us to be helpful on a daily basis to help them age in place, age gracefully, and sort of live the life in their 70s that they want to. The other interesting fact for us is that I'm an only child, and Woody's only sibling moved in with us during the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. And so right now, if any of our parents need support, it's going to be coming out of our house. So the primary need for our family is to ensure that what we have is a multi-generational house, that we have a house that can support a multi-generational family, and that means having a ground floor bedroom. So in addition to that, we are looking to have the space to have our family grow and stay here as our forever home, so we can stay engaged in the community and keep investing and being in this fabulous neighborhood. We would like to be able to have our children eventually not share a room. I think our children would also eventually like to not share a room. 6 and 4 is one thing, but I'm thinking that an 11-year-old and 13-year-old boy and girl probably are not going to be wild about sharing a bedroom. So what we have proposed here is taking the ADU that we had talked about in November and including it as a ground floor bedroom addition, along with some additional space that's over what's currently our garage. As we were talking about what our family needs and also thinking about the feedback that we got from the Commission in November, we realized that one of the challenges for our particular property as a corner lot is that on Ellicott Street, which is our frontage, our house looks pretty typical for the neighborhood. But from 32nd Street, it's very clear if you're standing on 32nd Street that you're looking at the side of our house. And so one of the ways that we realized we could achieve a secondary goal here was to use the addition as an opportunity to create a second frontage on 32nd Street that would make it look very typical to really match the character, scale, and pattern of the rest of the neighborhood. So with the proposal that we are considering right here, if you were standing on 32nd, it would look like you were looking at any other typical house on our block where we would still have I think importantly, one of the requests that our neighbors had made from our original proposal with the ADU was to ensure that we had an 8-foot setback from our property line, which matches what it would be if it were a side yard. So if you were looking at from 32nd Street over to the proposed addition, what it would look like is just a typical house with a typical side yard. Because of the way that our lot is set up with our frontage on 32nd Street, there is a required 25-foot rear yard. So the relief that we are seeking to move forward with this proposal is to be able to move into that required 25-foot rear yard while we would still maintain an 8-foot setback from the property line. I want to invite my husband to see if he has anything that he wanted to throw in before we turn it back to the commission.
No, I welcome any further questions from the commission.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Mehta?
So one thing that I wanted to sort of point out, I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, is that part of the reason why we're having this conversation is that this is a corner lot. And by definition, what is the rear yard of 3200 Ellicott Street is the side yard of the directly adjacent neighbor that is south of the addition that's proposed. And so we're dealing with a funny situation, I believe, that doesn't quite, that isn't quite captured in the code, and that brings us here. It is also my understanding that, and again, somebody who knows more can certainly correct me, that 8 feet is the required minimum setback, side yard setback in Forest Hills for neighbors side to side. One question I do have, Mrs. Glyer, is when I look at the side facade of the building and the extension that the new addition would have, can you please tell us how much it extends beyond the existing line of that side building, the side of the building?
Just to make sure that I understand, when we're looking at this picture, you're talking about on the right side, so extending out.
Correct. Sorry. Yeah, I should have been clearer. The part that's on 32nd Street, how far out does the addition extend toward 32nd Street beyond the current existing sideline of the facade on 32nd Street?
Yes, I believe that it extends out 2.5 feet from the existing line of the furthest east line of where our garage is. That is in order to accommodate, because we were talking about a 2-story addition, that's in order to accommodate an additional stairwell where we would need 4 feet to be able to move up for ingress and egress.
Okay. I also would, Commissioner David, I don't know if now is the right time, but there's a neighbor who was unable to make it to the meeting tonight and asked me to read her statement into the record regarding this application. I can wait until later or, do it now.
Yeah, let's get the other commissioners, and then when we get to the community, and then you'll represent that person as part of the community.
Okay, got it.
Commissioner Wall had a question.
I'll wait till after that statement is read. I can defer.
All right. Commissioner Christil.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, it's great having this, it's like an aerial shot. I'm just wondering if the applicant has an elevation of 32nd Street that you can actually see what it looks like relative, from the street and then relative to the neighbor to, I guess it'd be the south.
I can pull up a drawing. Give me just a second.
Commissioner Meta, do you want to read your, while we wait? Do you want to read the comment?
Yeah, I'm just unmuting. Okay. So this comment is from Hillary Altman, who lives at 4810 32nd Street, which is 2 doors south of the side yard of the applicants. We are unable to make this, no, sorry, excuse me, I'll start with the quoted part. Since the last ANC, we have met with the Glyers and have been provided with updated sketches. The new schematics illustrate that the separate dwelling has now been attached directly to the home as an addition, and also expanded to include the area over and in front of the garage, which fronts 32nd Street. We have concerns and have requested additional materials and measures from the Glyers. Specifically, the overall size of the original proposed separate dwelling does not appear to have been reduced. It now looks larger than the first proposal, as a room has been added over the garage. The original problem of the inappropriate size and placement of what appeared not to be a secondary structure, but another primary one, has not been resolved by simply moving it a few feet and sticking it onto the existing building. The new proposal still looms 2 stories high above a raised grade and protrudes 12.5 feet beyond the Heinz's front facade. The visual impact to their property, 4812 and 2 hours 4810, which is the other side of the Heinz's, is that there is now a large building overshadowing their front yard and extending beyond the prevailing setback of 32nd Street, dramatically altering the visual character of the block. We have asked the Glyers to reduce the proposed massing of their addition to appear as secondary to their home and the Heinz's, and to secondary to their home and the Heinz's, and to push back the addition to be flush with the Heinz's facade. We have asked them to provide the exact square footage of their revised drawings and also the details of the setback and zoning exception they are now seeking from the BZA with their new proposal. Our expectation is that the footprint, square footage, and scale will be reduced by going over the garage, and that a more appropriately sized addition will not extend beyond the primary facades of 32nd Street. We are also concerned about the environmental impacts to 32nd Street and to the original subdevelopment, of which 3200 Ellicott and we are part, and nearly 30 other homes. Our understanding is that the Glyers propose to excavate significantly in the setback area where they are seeking exception to dig a full story to below ground, and that this will impact the interconnected sewer easement, thus requiring modification of the system that serves these homes. We have asked the Glyers for detailed study and site information to be provided regarding their excavation plans and how they propose to address the environmental impacts. Signed, Hillary Altman, 4810 32nd Street Northwest.
Thank you, Commissioner Meta.
So I have the rendering. I just I think it's important for me to address that statement. The last question that I received from the Altmans, they've had several weeks to review the revised plans. I sent them several emails asking if they had any follow-ups. The only specific I got was Sunday evening that asked if we would consider moving the addition back further to be flush with our southern neighbor's property. Any questions about environmental impact, drainage? This is the first that I'm hearing of that. I'm sorry that they couldn't be here tonight, but I just wanted to point out that we have been very accommodating and very proactive in trying to understand what concerns are had by the neighbors. And also many of these things, I think, change materially depending on what project ends up getting approved. My understanding is that we will have to file permits for environmental impact, drainage concerns further on in the process. And having that information at this time feels like I'm just surprised to be hearing it in this venue. Is it okay if I share my screen for the rendering to answer Commissioner Castillo's question?
Yes.
Great. Is this sharing?
Yes.
Great. So this is from this is looking from the corner of 32nd and Ellicott southwest, I guess. and you can see the space that we're finishing over the garage, and then the new addition. I don't know if my cursor is showing up over here on the grade. So part of our issue here, and I think we explained a little bit about this in the last meeting. We have some hardscape features that we've inherited on the property. And so the grade of the addition is roughly, I believe it's 4 feet above the sidewalk level. That's the line of the house. And there are some crumbling concrete and stone walls that we need to address. And so part of this project is to remove those features. So, the excavation that's happening here is to lay foundation and support for this structure. But as my wife explained, the point here is for us to have a ground floor at grade bedroom. So there will be digging that happens, but it's the end result will be a structure that is flush with 32nd Street.
Did that
Clear,
answer?
just so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just so I'm clear, so the light blue is the new construction
Correct.
that's proposed. And so like off behind it, that's a current structure already. That would still be higher than what you're proposing to build. Is that my understanding?
No, I think so what you can see, our current home is in the gray to the right of where the blue addition is. So the garage piece that you see on the front, right up the corner edge, and moving to the right is our current structure.
Mm-hmm.
The structure that's to the left, which is on the south, is our neighbor's property, which is much taller than our home and much taller than our proposed addition. What you can see is that that property, I suspect that our neighbor, Mike Hine, is actually raising his hand to speak. So I don't know if he's also here to talk about it, but their property is set very far back compared to the other homes on our block. What you can see here is where our home comes out on the 32nd Street side. The Hines are set pretty far back from where the other homes on the block are, and then the Altman's house also shows up there, sort of to the left of where the trees are drawn in here on this diagram. You can see that the Altman's home is also at, to our understanding, almost exactly the same place that we are including in our proposal.
And we are, I believe, 5 feet short of the building restriction line on 32nd Street, which is not in line with our immediate neighbor to the south, but is in line with the other houses on that block of 32nd.
And to be clear, you're not seeking an exception regarding the building restriction line. Am I right? Am I right, Mr. Black?
Yeah, correct. I believe we can build by right east towards 32nd. Specifically, we are asking for relief to build south into the 25-foot required rear yard.
So so I'm clear, are you asking for just the single exception, or is there
Only one exception.
only that one exception into the rear?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, sorry, Commissioner Castile, please ask your question.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish the question from Commissioner Nemeth, and then I'll jump in.
Great. Yeah. So we have listened and I think made some pretty serious compromises since our last meeting. We've abandoned the ADU. We're trying to improve the character, scale, and pattern of our house as viewed from 32nd Street. The sticking point, and I'm sure that Mike will speak after this, is sort of where our house is in related to our southern neighbor's house. For us to move the structure back causes further compromises to, I think, the overall design of our house that feels unreasonable to us for what we are trying to accomplish with this design. So I think we've taken a lot of feedback. I think that we've made a lot of really positive changes, and I think we're here just to sort of understand whether or not we can get relief for the southern portion to the rear yard.
Thank you.
And I guess my question, Mr. Glyer and Stephanie, Mrs. Glyer, is another way to ask it is, what's the difference in square footage between the first proposal and this proposal in terms of additional square footage?
This proposal is larger because we are going through the process of the addition that requires effectively surgery to the main house. We are going to take advantage of the project to add additional square footage over our garage and mudroom.
So that's like, I mean, again, just looking at what I see, it's an order of magnitude of about 33% more square footage than what was originally proposed.
Yeah, Marty, I don't know if you want to take that one.
If I could just add in, Marty Sullivan, I'm zoning counsel for the Glyers. The footprint's the same. We're still just at 36% lot occupancy. So that was the proposal before, was 36%, and this is still 36% lot occupancy. So any additional square footage is just on top of the garage, essentially, and it's only 23 feet high. The letter from the Altman said this building towers over the neighbors to the south. It's 23 feet high. It's lower than the building to the south. And regarding the relief, yes, it's just one area of relief. The previous relief was for having an accessory building within a required rear yard. This is just for relief from the rear yard requirement. And the reason why the rear yard is on this side is because the frontage for zoning purposes is on Ellicott. And so even though it presents as a side yard on 32nd, it's technically a rear yard. So that's why we're asking for relief. But the reason we did the 8 feet was so that it would be what would be a compliant side yard as it faces 32nd.
And I guess, Mr. Sullivan, just to follow up on you're right, the footprint may not change, but the square footages. So what's I guess the existing square footage of the current home is, how many square feet is that again, about?
I'm not actually aware of
I believe it might be on the other drawing.
And then again, there's the existing square footage and then kind of what you're adding. And then again, if I understand this correctly, this is in the context of an accessory dwelling unit, but it sounds like it's sort of switching, right? I can see you're shaking your head. It's not really.
It's just an addition now. There's no kitchen in there. There's no separate unit.
Just an additional question. This is Commissioner Appa. I was just wondering if you could scroll through the other angles of the plans that you have.
So this is looking from Ellicott. And I believe this is
that
looking, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. If you go back to the garage. Oh yeah, so right now it looks, the addition here, it would replace what is currently I'm gonna misuse the term, there's a roof on the garage that's sort of peaked. So it is not currently usable space, but the view from Ellicott or from 32nd is not going to change dramatically with this addition.
Can you pause there for a second?
Of course.
So I think this is, illustrates some of the concern in that just looking at these two windows, essentially those are looking right at essentially like the front door in front of your next door neighbor's house. Is there any flexibility to delete those two? Just so there's a little bit more, at least perceived privacy for the neighbor, or would that?
These face their side yard.
I understand.
They don't have any windows on their wall on that house. They have one small window on that side, and I mean, point out too. We're asking for rear yard relief, but it's for a 25-foot
Mr.
stretch.
Mr. Sullivan, I'm asking the neighbor or Mr. Glyer in terms of would deleting this window change your usability of this unit?
Yeah, so I mean, those windows feed a bedroom. I think that we've already offered to make them, privacy sensitive now with a full 8-foot setback the possibility for us to do vegetation, tree planting to alleviate the privacy concerns. These are all offers that I've made to the Hines. I think that, we obviously don't want this unit to suffer from a lack of natural light. I think that there's, these are not full, floor to ceiling windows. I think that they are, I think that they meet the privacy needs, and there's more that we are willing to do on the landscaping, if that's the concern. And I also think, given the angle, that, again, our house already extends something like 12 feet past the Hines property. We are coming out a little bit further on these, but I think it's it's important for again, that room that you're looking in there is the front bedroom, for us to keep those windows.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to continue to scroll down because I just didn't see through all of the
Keep scrolling.
So sorry, just to pause here. So you're saying though there is a window on your neighbor's yard here though, but you're saying from the view, they're unable to see. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I don't know if Paul is still with us that can talk about the positioning of the windows. Who's the architect on the project?
I actually wonder if we can go back up to Woody, if you can go back up to the first page where we have the overhead view. The one window on our southern neighbor's wall there faces directly into our now. I think we're interested in vegetation and other mitigation strategies to deal with privacy as they are now. Are you able to hover your cursor? Where our kitchen window is? To, I think, show you where that goes. Do you see where our kitchen? I don't know who's actually controlling this. Yeah. So where the cursor is now is where it goes across from that one window on our neighbor's north-facing wall. Is that helpful, Commissioner Alba?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to spend like 2 more minutes on this. Does the community have any questions? I see Juanita, then Michael have questions.
Hi, commissioners. Thank you. I don't have a question. I just have a statement. And I'm speaking, I live in Van Ness. I have been a resident since 2014. So I'm just speaking as Juanita, the resident, and not Juanita, a representative of the university. I don't know the applicants, but I appreciate everything that they've shared tonight. And I have followed this since the beginning. And I just want to, I guess, give my support for their additions. I think that, we're a community. There's always people expanding to their homes, subtracting from their homes, and there will always be people who object to extensions for a multitude of reasons. But I don't believe that one objection should take away from a neighbor who's just trying to expand their home and the property value, which is eventually going to help everyone. So I support this project. The applicants, good luck. I hope it passes, and that's all.
Thank you, Juanita. Michael.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I'm Michael Hine. My wife and I, Catherine, are the neighbors to the south of the Gliers. Commissioners, thanks for your consideration. We support the Gliers expansion of living space and certainly the in-law quarters. The revised proposal, as Commissioner Mehta said, moves the ADU over 5 feet, so it's attached. And that addresses one of the concerns we originally had. And so they've now offered an 8-foot setback, which we appreciate and recognize that as an adjustment they made for us and some of the other neighbors. It does, however, leave a two-story structure that overlooks a significant part of the front yard. And so we received the proposal 2 weeks ago. We met with Stephanie and Woody on Sunday. And what we simply asked was, could we postpone the ANC's consideration for a month? So, rather than having, a couple of days to try to reach a resolution, we have another month to work out some accommodation with respect to how far forward the addition protrudes. I'm going to just share my screen here quickly, if that's okay. And so, this is really the space. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is the space that we're talking about. And really all we're asking is some additional time to meet with the Glears. We asked them if there was any room to move this front line of the addition back, and the answer was no. Not 12 feet or 8 feet or even a foot. So I think all we're asking here is for space to do that. I know there are other things on the agenda, so I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Michael. Bhavana has a question, and then I'll take it back to the Glyers for a couple seconds just to respond, and then we'll consider a vote. So Bhavana, you've got 60 seconds.
Okay. Hi, my name's Bhavna Lee. I'm at 3201 Ellicott Street. We live directly across from Woody and Stephanie. And I'm a developer. My husband and I, Corey Lee, have been working in the district in real estate and are very familiar with development and with also development in our neighborhood. We received notice of the BZA and we reviewed the design with the Glears, and we're in complete support of somebody being able to expand the use of their home, especially for reasonable needs. And we are on a corner lot as well. So we are also constrained by the setback requirements for rear setbacks, et cetera. So we completely understand, when you're on a corner, the rear is kind of like a side for your next door neighbor. Their design is in line with what their house is currently designed at. So architecturally it works. And, we live right next to a brand new construction project at 3215 Ellicott Street. I'm sure all of you have seen the home that was demolished and that was moved closer up towards Ellicott. They have windows that are facing our home into our patio that look into our living room. And it is kind of what it is. If we have privacy concerns, we can grow vegetation, we can put up a fence. But I think it's reasonable for our new neighbor that's building a brand new enormous house that we've dealt with at the raise and geothermal and all the different inconveniences of having the construction site next door. And they're within their means and their ability to develop. And I think as neighbors, we should all continue to work together and be supportive of design that's reasonable. So we support their application.
Thank you, Bhavna. Mr. and Mrs. Glyer, you've got like 60 seconds to respond.
I think we've said our piece here and appreciate everyone bearing through this through multiple meetings, and just really respect the conversation and discussion, and want to pass it along for a vote.
Okay, thank you. I want to pass it on to Commissioner Mehta.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody who has come to this meeting to talk. I appreciate the Glears withdrawing it from the November meeting, and I especially appreciate the Heinz's communication around this project with me from the outset. And couple of things I want to point out about where we are at this moment. One is that the only thing that's under consideration at this moment in time is the 25-foot rear yard setback. There is no exception or no variance being sought by the Gleers with respect to the extension of the home towards 32nd Street. That is building within right, within legal right. So with that, I just also want to be clear that anything else that was mentioned, particularly in the statement by Hillary Altman that I read into the record regarding civil engineering issues or stormwater management or excavation, those are all matters that are addressed by very able agencies of the DC permitting bodies, including DOEE and the Stormwater Management Branch and all the various agencies. There are so many that are involved in this permitting process. So it's not within the purview of this ANC to comment on those particular types of issues. The last thing that I'd like to point out is that we live in a city, and as I'm sitting here, I just turned to my right and my neighbor's window is literally 8 feet from my from my property line, and she could look at me in this entire meeting, which isn't very interesting, but she could do that if she wanted to. And it's part of it's a function of living in the city. The 8-foot setback that the Gleers have proposed is entirely consistent with side yard setback rules in Forest Hills in the zone that we live in. And for that reason, I would recommend to the commission that we approve the Gleers' request for an exception for the 25-foot rear yard setback.
Thank you, Commissioner Mehta. So is that a motion? Is that a motion to approve the setback?
I don't know if I'm allowed to make the motion. I just wanted to present the facts in my position, and I would certainly suggest that my other commissioners, be allowed to comment.
You are allowed to make the motion, Commissioner Mehta, just so you know.
Any final thoughts or comments from any commissioners?
No.
My comment is, what I'll say is, I very much appreciate the Gleers coming back and withdrawing their application the last time, because clearly there were a lot of issues with it, and I truly appreciate how much effort they've put into reworking this and coming back to us with this proposal, and I do support this proposal. And so thank you for all the effort you've put into making this work.
Thank you, Commissioner Namath.
I think Commissioner Wall has.
Commissioner Hopper?
No, sorry, I was saying, I think Commissioner Wall has a question.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Wall.
Thank you, Chair David. I also want to thank the Gleers for one, making fairly large changes in their program and kind of taking our feedback into account to do so. And I also want to recognize our neighbor Ms. Gray's comment with regard to supporting the creation of additional units in our community. As you've seen, I hope, by this ANC, we have supported multiple projects of this nature. So we are absolutely in support of building more housing in our community to support more opportunities for people to live with us. I do want to say that, yes, I think that the actual item that we're voting on with regard to the setback, they have indeed moved in a good direction. However, we are indeed neighbors, and I would encourage the Gleers as we move forward to definitely consider tweaking these plans further to better address the feedback, the very real feedback and concern from the Hines. So please consider that, and consider the fact that these are your neighbors as well. And we do want to support density and support additional units, but we also want people to be considerate. And looking at some of the other plans that have come before us this evening, it is possible to address the concerns of your neighbor and actually realize the vision that you're trying to achieve. So that is my only point. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wall. Any other comments from commissioners? Can I get a motion on the vote?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the special exception for relief from the 25-foot rear yard setback requirement.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Christil, for the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. The exception passes. Thank you so much, Commissioner Mehta, for all of your work. We've got two more, just two quick permits that we need to go through. 2930 Brandywine.
Oh, boy. Okay, that's me too. I'm sorry. I was waiting for intermission, but I guess that's not happening tonight. Okay. 2930 Brandywine. This request is to permit a non-conforming parking space within the front yard of a detached two-story principal dwelling unit. I am not aware of any objections to this project, but in full disclosure, I'm also not aware of the details around this project. I understand that somebody by the name of Ms. Carr is at the meeting tonight to present the details around this to the entire commission and the community. And for me, it's also my first time regarding this presentation. So I will turn it over to Ms. Carr.
Commissioner Mehta, this is Marty Sullivan. I'm here representing the applicant on this one as well.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Carr is here, so if you have any questions, but so the relief is for parking in front of the house. There's a restriction against parking in the front of your house. This driveway has been here forever. It's been there for 80 years or more. And because they're making changes to the driveway, they're just resurfacing the driveway and widening it 1 foot. The zoning administrator decided that they needed BZA relief because they were altering that existing parking space. And so it essentially lost its non-conforming status as a legally non-conforming parking space in front of the house. So, and that's it. I've never seen anything like this.
Mr. Sullivan,
yes.
Sorry, maybe we could just cut to the chase then, and you could tell us whether the location and the size of the non-conforming parking space is moving pre-construction versus post-construction.
No, it's in the same place.
It's in the same place, and it's the same size.
Yeah. Yes. It's the same size. Well, there's like a railroad tie on the side that's moving away, and I could share a photo of that. But and maybe Ms. Carr, is that
the double dotted line in the photograph? Is that the railroad tie that's going away? That double dotted line along the driveway?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. And who has control of the cursor? Maybe you could just move it over the parking space so everyone can be on the same page around where this thing is.
The cursor.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can't then.
So the proposed is on the right.
Okay.
And if I could share, I can zoom in if I share my screen. I'll try that. Okay, thanks. Find it first. Okay, here. Okay, did I share the right screen?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, it's right here, and I have here's a photo of the driveway. So this is going away, and the driveway is being resurfaced, and that's the plan. These stairs are being replaced, but that doesn't have anything to do with the relief.
So to be clear, the parking space we're talking about is actually the driveway?
The parking space is, yes, the parking space is here. Yeah. The driveway doesn't go through the house,
Okay,
and it's not possible to park in the back because of the elevation of the grade in the back. And so this has always been the parking space. And let me see, I have another photo from the.
Mr. Sullivan, are you
Yes.
aware of any objections or discussions with neighbors concerning the, I guess, reinstatement of an existing parking space? I'm not sure how else to put it.
Yeah, no, we have 3 letters of support from 2930, or I'm sorry, 2928, 2940, and 2945. No opposition or objections that we know of. No.
Okay, Commissioner David, I think we should move to the portion around the questions from other commissioners and then to the community portion. I'm also not aware of any objections, and it looks like, frankly, a one-to-one replacement and essentially an improvement to an existing driveway.
Okay, Commissioner Nemeth.
Hi, thank you. So you mentioned at the beginning that, okay, so this driveway is like 80 years old and it's been there forever. You mentioned you're going to be widening it, and is the widening just getting rid of that rail tie or that wooden whatever off to the side, or are you actually widening the curb cut itself?
No, not widening the curb cut. Just widening that area, maybe another 3 inches beyond the 6-inch wide timber curb.
And that's the only thing that they've sort of.
Correct.
Commissioner Nemeth, I believe that if they were widening the curb cut, they would need a public space permit, which is not what they're asking for.
Yeah.
Well, we actually do need a public space permit.
Yes.
For which part of it?
For the roughly 2 feet from the sidewalk into the driveway or front yard. Because the property line is parallel with the inside edge of the sidewalk about 2 feet.
Yes, that makes sense. I mean, I've dealt with this on my property when I had mine redone, and property lines often are well back from the sidewalk. Public space often includes what people think is their front yard is actually oftentimes part of the public space. So, so that makes perfect sense. I'm just surprised that you need an exception just to even add that little bit, but okay.
I was as well.
That's a weird one. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nemeth. Any questions from any other, or questions or comments from any other commissioners? Have we got any questions or comments from the community? You can just raise your hand.
Yeah, I guess I would like to comment that there are at least 14 other homes on that block that have driveways and parking in their front yard, which is the objection from zoning. So there's, this house was built in 1926. The driveway has always been there.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Seeing no more questions or comments from the commissioners or the community, can I get a motion to vote on the special exception?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for the non-conforming parking space at 2930 Brandywine as presented tonight.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nemeth. All in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? And the motion passes. Thank you very much, everyone, for all your work. And we've got one quick one for 2916 Upton Street. And then we'll move on to the follow-up on the Days Inn.
Awesome. So this is in my SMD. So We have Vivian Fernandez, who's the architect for the expansion, and we also have Mike Galano, who's one of the homeowners. This is basically an extension, basically adding on to like the back of the house. So it basically sort of removed like a deck that they currently have and replaced it with an extension across the whole back of the house. This actually has been approved already by the BZA. It's just sort of us as an ANC giving comments, also voting and approve of it as well too. So I will let, I think Ms. Fernandez, I think you are in charge of this presentation, so go on right ahead.
I'm representing Michael and Christine Delano, residing at this property.
I'm sorry, can you turn up your, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better, but we need you to maybe turn your volume up or
move closer to the device. It's faint.
Can you hear me better?
closer, and maybe yell.
Okay, I'll
Can you try again?
is that better?
A little bit better. If you could just speak up.
Okay, all right. The Galanos live in this compact semi-detached house, which is located on Upton Street, which is east of a bunch of Wardman townhouses that are much larger. And we're requesting a 15-foot addition, which would have been by right prior to the 2016 zoning changes, but now requires a special exemption because it's going beyond the 10-foot allowed by section 306.3. So we're requesting basically an additional 5 feet of coverage and a 4-foot deck to basically get down to the yard. The current house is about 690 square feet on its footprint, and we would be adding about 270 square feet to the rear of the property, which is about 180 square feet more than would be allowed. Basically, that's it. It's an addition to the rear. The neighbors don't have an objection. The immediate neighbor to the right of the house, if you're facing it from the front, does not have any objection. And we would like to get your approval for this project.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioner? Commissioner Tenderick, have you got a comment?
Yeah, I think I just want to add on, I really appreciate like the Jolanos for, there actually were like 4 letters of recommendation from their closest left and right neighbors, which is really cool. And also DDOT has approved of it, which is also, I think that just shows like how much the Jolanos have put in thought and effort into the passing of the special exemption. So that is my only comment. I haven't seen any objections via email or in the neighbors at all. It's been pretty smooth for the most part.
Thank you, Commissioner Tenderick. Are there any questions, comments from the commissioners? Any questions, comments from the community? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
I'd like to motion to approve the resolution to basically allow the special exemption on 2916 Upton Streets.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Appa. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us through our resolutions and our special exemptions. We are now moving to the information item of our regular agenda on to talk about the Days Inn shooting. So as I introduce Lieutenant Amadeo of District 2 Metropolitan Police Department and Jamie Hauser from the Days Inn, I want to remind our community that the recent gun violence at the Days Inn was contained to a single hotel room among people who knew each other. It was not a random act of violence. Nonetheless, ANC3F commissioners invited representatives of MPD in the Days Inn to join us tonight to share the measures they are taking to secure the safety of our community and to address specific concerns of our residents. On behalf of ANC3F commissioners, we want to extend our condolences to the victims and the families of the Days Inn incident. As your commissioners and your neighbors, we were alarmed by this incident in our community. We would like to express our strong desire to ensure a safe community and create more opportunities for community engagement to enhance feelings of inclusion and belonging in ANC3F. We have heard feedback from the community on safety, and we are working closely with MPD, Councilwoman Mary Che's office. There's also the OAG's office and Mayor Bowser's office that we've been working with to address safety concerns. ANC3F views safety holistically. So tonight we'll be discussing the recent shooting at Days Inn, but future meetings will be proactive in context as it relates to protecting our environment, improving upon our streets and sidewalks, strengthening opportunities for social services and affordable housing, and enhancing our universities and schools. With that said, Lieutenant Amadeo, we will start with an update from you, and then Jamie Hauser will give an update, and we'll have questions from the commissioners, then questions from the community. Thank you. So Lieutenant Amadeo, welcome.
All right, thank you, Commissioner David. Thank you all for allowing us time to discuss this. Regarding the homicide at the Days Inn, we have officially determined that there's no ongoing threat. There was no ongoing threat, and that has not persisted to the general public. The case remains open. The investigation's ongoing. The information that I can share now is that our homicide division has identified a subject of interest with ties to the victim, a victim, and that information, the identifiers as far as a name, a photograph, or the relationship, that information, as far as that's concerned, is still restricted to law enforcement. If anyone has any information that they'd like to share with us that they haven't shared already, I'll include in the chat the phone number to our homicide division. For everyone that's listening, it is 202-645-9600. I know a lot of questions have come up regarding the data sets related to 4400 Connecticut Avenue, and one point of contention has been that the Days Inn shares the same address that we would catalog everything that happened in that block under, it being 4400 Connecticut Avenue. So if anything happened in the middle of the street, on the side of the streets, and wasn't associated with any particular property, it would, as far as reporting is concerned, or us receiving a call for service, it would be cataloged under 4400 Connecticut Avenue. And I'm sure most of the commissioners are aware, but for everyone else that's listening, the Office of the Attorney General has initiated nuisance abatement. It's something that we can, the government can do to compel security enhancements in the wake of crimes related to gun violence, narcotics use, or the seizure of narcotics and prostitution related offenses. As far as that's concerned, I would defer those discussions specifically regarding those proceedings to either a representative of the Office of the Attorney General or a management representative of Coakley and Williams Hotel Management. And I believe Jamie Hauser should still be with us.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. In the interest of time, would you like me to go over the data sets as far as calls for service and what has been reported? Because I know that that number might have surprised somebody, just to be brief in the last 2 years for 2020 and 2021,
Yes.
278 total calls for service. But as I mentioned before, that could be both, and that it is for both the hotel property and anything that may have happened in the block itself. Those two locations are conflated within the same data set. And as a background, having received a call for service at a specific location is not indicative that it would have resulted in a reportable event, or that it happened to have happened in the 4400 block of Connecticut Avenue. An example of that might be that perhaps a car is broken into elsewhere. If you were out at a store or parked on Wyndham, perhaps, and then you go back to the 4400 block of Connecticut Avenue, report that to the police. That's where you are, and that's why we received the call for 4400 Connecticut Avenue. But it isn't necessarily indicative that the event happened in that location. And I have data to back that up of what we actually reported as happening in that locations. But if you'd like to move on to Jamie Hauser, I would understand that as well. I can stand by and discuss that more in depth later.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's introduce Jamie Hauser. Yes, Jamie Hauser, you still on, Jamie?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Claudette. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak to the ANC and to the community. I've prepared a short statement, if you don't mind, that I'd like to present to the community. On behalf of the ownership and management and the staff of the Connecticut Avenue Days Inn, I want to thank the ANC and the community for having me here this evening. As you're aware, the tragic shootings of January 27th have impacted us all in this senseless act of violence. We ask that everyone continue to keep not only the victims of this crime, but also the employees and residents of this neighborhood in our prayers to continue to heal. We've worked closely with the Metropolitan Police Department and have delivered every piece of evidence that we have within our possession to assist the MPD in their investigation and hopefully enable them to bring justice to this case. Our position has always been to work with any law enforcement agency to ensure the safety of not only our guests, but everyone in our neighborhood. In addition to working with the MPD, we have thoroughly audited our safety and security protocols. And after internal review, this tragic incident had no warning signs that our team could have adequately prepared for. There was no unusual activity on the night that this event took place. As we move forward together, it's imperative that everyone know for the past 37 years, we've been here to serve the community. We've been here to serve everyone, both locally and abroad, as diverse travelers continue to come to visit the nation's capital. Again, I'd like to thank the ANC and those that have offered your support throughout this heinous crime of a few individuals who do not reflect the values of those who visit and reside in our community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jamie. Have we got any questions from the commissioners?
Yes, I'd like.
Commissioner Namath.
Officer Amadeo, could you please, I mean, I know I've heard some stuff, but I'm not sure if the community has necessarily actually gotten a recitation as to what exactly happened the evening of the shooting, what's public in terms of the specific event. I mean, we've said it was an event that could not have been stopped, but can you please describe the events of that evening just so the community understands better?
Yeah, I certainly can't get into the particulars of what happened, but as I said earlier, the relationship of the perpetrator to a victim. What I can say is that the individuals that occupied the hotel room, the individual hotel room that was the event location, were specifically targeted and sought out. So as far as that crime having occurred, it admittedly had very little to do with the property itself, the Connecticut Avenue in general, or that specific community. it was in fact the occupants that were sought out and by the perpetrator of the crime of violence.
This is Commissioner Oppa. I just have a follow-up question. You mentioned, I would love if you could just dive a little bit into some of the statistics that you have. You said that there's 221 calls that are for the entire 4400 block. Is there any way to disaggregate any of that data to sort of understand, what is just with the days in and what is, just regular Connecticut Avenue traffic or any of those other calls?
So it was actually 278 total calls for service that we have for the calendar year 2020 and 2021. And those ranged from everything from disorderly conduct being reported to the police for or assaults, traffic accidents, driving complaints, or business alarms. It pretty much runs the whole gamut of everything that we work on a daily basis. There's nothing on this list that's jumping out at me that's noticeably absent. As far as being able to decipher what happened specifically in the property, there's no way that I can decipher that without going through each individual call for service. The data that I have immediately available to me through our police databases only gives me the last 365 days. Our crime analysis were able to provide me with back data for all of 2020. That being said, what I can tell you about that data set specifically is that of those 278 calls for service, and again, I'll reiterate that that's not indicative of an event being actually reported or the call for service actually having occurred within either the property 4400 Connecticut Avenue or the 4400 block of Connecticut Avenue. But as far as breaking down some of that data is concerned, for 2020, 121 of the calls for service occurred in 2020. That's 44%, just under 44%. The remainder should be under 160 calls for 2021. As we come out of the initial phases of the pandemic. As far as the breakdown is concerned, over that 2-year period, of those 278 calls for service, again, in the 2-year period, that resulted in 49 police reports, 13 arrests, and 2 gun recoveries. One of those was the night of the homicide.
Thank you, Lieutenant Amadeo. Commissioner Tenderek.
Hello. So one thing, I may be coming in and out. I've left the call twice because of my internet. So if I just if you can't hear me, just let me know and stuff. I'm curious to hear from you about just, because it sounds like to me of these 278 calls, right, there seems to be no way to distinct of what is on the 3200 block of Connecticut Avenue along with the hotel the days in.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the reason behind that? And how can we get access to that data? Because I remember the meeting that happened last month where we had the chief and public official saying that how there's lots of crime happening in the area and it's all coming from this days in, but it sounds like it's not really the case at all. So I just need more clarification as to how can we know which crimes are from the block as well as the inn, and how can we get access to that data?
The data regarding calls for service specifically is more closely guarded due to privacy concerns. It is not under the same rules that we would release public data for events that actually resulted in a police report. So as far as the particulars of the calls for service, that would be subject to a FOIA request. But as far as myself being able to decipher that data, it would require going through each individual call to see what was associated with the days in specifically. But as far as public data is concerned, it's not released in the same manner that you may be familiar with if you received information regarding an actual police report or police report numbers.
So just to clarify, there is a way for you to gather that data on calls of service to the days in. It's just that it can't be public. So you can't tell us anything like number, like there's no data you can tell us regarding the amount of call service to the days in itself,
Specifically,
based on what you have.
Right, nothing that I have in front of me right now.
Yeah, and like I'm asking this because, of course, we've seen this number that's coming at the 278 that's being blamed all on the days in, but it seems like that some of the calls are not on the days in. So I'm trying to clarify which calls are for each specific group.
Right, I would like to be abundantly clear for everyone that's listening that again, hopefully I have already been abundantly clear, but that number 278 is associated with both the 4400 block of Connecticut Avenue and the days in specifically, which carries the address 4400 Connecticut Avenue. But no, in front of me right now, I don't have specifics on numbers associated specifically with the property.
Okay, and then when will us as the ANC get like that data? Because I think that's what we're trying to ask for is like what types of data specifically for each type of group. So like when would we like get that and like what capacity would that be?
I'll start going through the data set myself for 2021, and then we'll see if our crime analysis can't work that up as well.
And just to chime in here, part of the reason, of course, Commissioner Tenderek are asking, I'm sorry, Commissioner Mehta, I know you had your hand raised, just as a follow-up, we want to make sure that we are consistently making sure that we're communicating to the public about the magnitude of the issue. And so we just want to be clear because I think there has been some misinformation. And I think you have been clear in terms of like your statement about the days in versus the rest of the block. But, this incident was incredibly alarming to the community. So we just want to make sure that we're very clear about what those stats are so that we can, when we are communicating to our constituents, we're clear about basically what is what. And continue to reiterate the message that you're also sharing with us as well. We've had conversations with also Jamie Hauser, who also shared this, that the days in also made calls to the police as well, based on some of the residents that are there. So they are doing the right thing by calling the police. If just also to clarify with Commissioner Tenderek's question, do we need a FOIA request to be able to have access to the data that you are disaggregating?
Yes, and if I could actually respond to Carol in the chat too. You mentioned a deficiency in record keeping by MPD. It should be noted that calls for service, MPD is not the custodian of calls for service. It doesn't even fall under our agency. We have no control over the Office of Unified Communications. It is a separate government entity in and of itself. There is no deficiency in part of the MPD. These are not our records. They're the records of the Office of Unified Communications, and if anyone was to seek them, it would be sought through the Office of Unified Communications, not the Metropolitan Police Department.
Thank you, Lieutenant. We have a question from Commissioner Mehta, and then Jamie Hauser has a statement he needs to make.
Hi, Lieutenant Amadeo. Thank you for sitting through our entire meeting to get to this portion of the evening. We all appreciate you joining the meeting. The question I have is, I think that Commissioner Alpa's comment about disaggregating, not conflating what happened, a couple of weeks ago in that hotel room as a very, isolated event in a particular hotel room with what I think our community sees, either rightly or wrongly, I'm not going to comment on that, as a string of concerns associated with the days in. My question to you, Lieutenant Amadeo, and then I have a second question for Mr. Hauser, is, are there any measures or thoughts that you are willing to share with us regarding efforts that you believe in your professional capacity that the days in could undertake to start to mitigate the number of calls associated with the days in, or to mitigate the activities around and in the days in that are calling concern by our community.
Yes, absolutely. And that's all related back to the nuisance property abatement that is currently being undertaken and initiated by the Office of the Attorney General, but that is within their purview. So I cannot speak as to what the Office of the Attorney General has done or would like to see done, as that's within their purview. But as I can't speak for the Attorney General, perhaps Mr. Hauser can speak as to those proceedings.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm actually not asking you what the Office of the OAG has done. I'm asking you in your professional capacity as a law enforcement officer and as someone who I assume appears at the site of maybe not just Days Inn, but other incidences of this nature, what you would recommend to a business owner such as Days Inn or any business owner around these kind of activities, and how they could take measures to mitigate things related to, to assaults and disorderly conduct and drug-related crimes, understanding that the Days Inn is not entirely within control of everything, around everything that's happening in and on its property. But there does seem to be a string of behavior that takes place around there, and we are trying to figure out what it is about the Days Inn that attracts this kind of conduct and behavior that then leads to problems and
Right.
Ultimately to unfortunate crimes.
Well, it is the only hotel in the area. Beyond that, I know, fortunately, it's no longer being used as a temporary housing site, which initially contributed to some of the historical problems that were
Mr.
there.
Hauser,
Beyond,
sorry, go ahead.
no,
Please.
that's all right. Beyond that, some of the things that can be done to mitigate the disorderly conduct that would eventually develop into worse behavior is mostly geared at disrupting an environment that would allow it to go unnoticed, whether that's increased visibility, lighting, cameras, or restricted access. As far as like hotel properties are concerned, not allowing unfettered access is tremendously helpful, especially if there are multiple points of entries, whether it's like a rear door, side door, a garage entrance. If everyone can be filtered through the front, or require hotel key cards for access. If elevators are further restricted, that's great too, because obviously then somebody that's not staying at the property or an authorized guest, somebody with a key, couldn't access more private areas, although obviously hallways in hotels aren't private areas, but at least the only people that should be up there are people that have reason to be on those floors. Cameras are extremely important, not only after the fact, but hopefully people limit illicit activity when they know they're under surveillance.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser. Did you want to respond to that?
I sure did. Thank you, Claudette. To answer Deepa's question and to comment on Lieutenant Amadeo's comments, the hotel has had for years and years and years exterior remote access capabilities. The main entrance has remote access. Our three side entrances have remote access. And the hotel has plenty of cameras, of which we worked very closely with the Metropolitan Police Department during this terrible situation to turn over all of our video and review video forever, it felt like. So those measures have been in place for a long time at the hotel. In addition, the hotel does have and it has had security since I've been involved with the hotel in the mid to late 90s. And that's 7-day-a-week security. But I did want to take a moment to thank Lieutenant Amadeo because I personally have seen this neighborhood. Again, I've been in this neighborhood for a long time. I've been associated with that hotel for a long time, and it's my neighborhood too. And what I've seen is over the past 2 years, you know, the same thing everybody else has seen in our neighborhood. I will say, since this very tragic situation, and the Metropolitan Police now becoming more involved than, let's say, in the past 2 years, the general landscape of the people being moved along that would be considered trespassing or being vagrants or just taking up space has receded drastically. Metropolitan Police Department has now instated a logbook at the hotel at the front desk. They come in on an average of, say, between 6 and 8 times a day, which we appreciate greatly. We are extremely law enforcement friendly. We always have been. And I really believe that this is what it's going to take to help get this neighborhood back to where it was 2 years ago and plus. And so I do want to thank Lieutenant Amadeo for his help with that. And the officers have been great. They've been extremely helpful. And I know it's not just for us, but it's for the other businesses and the people in the community that have to walk up 4400 Connecticut Avenue. They have to be seen that there is a change being made, and that is directly due to MPD.
Jamie, thank you for that. Could you tell everybody and me what exactly remote access means and how many remote access points there are to the hotel?
The hotel has a total of, we can call it 3 side entrances, if you will, not necessarily main entrances. And then we have our main vestibule, which is where the community meeting was the day of the event. All of those entrances are on a maglock key card system. The only people that would have access at what we call after business hours, starting at around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening, would not have access unless either somebody let them in as a courtesy, and we've seen that, you know, people just being polite and holding doors for people, or B, they have to be a registered guest with a key card to get into their room. The only other people that would have access to that would be our security personnel and the management, which we all have our own access to. But at approximately 10 o'clock at night, every night, 365 days out of the year, our main vestibule is actually locked down, has been like that since long before September 11th. And you can only gain access into the lobby by utilizing a telecom that we have there, or having a registered key card, which will also let you in.
So Lieutenant Amadeo, is that something that describing the measures that Jamie just described, or the access points, not the measures, the access points, would you recommend that the Days Inn change their practices with respect to access points and remote access? Because I have to say, we see all the time people holding the door for other people as a courtesy to let them in. I'm interested in what your professional opinion is around how Days Inn can potentially secure their building and the perimeter of the building more soundly than has been done in the past.
Officially, as those proceedings are ongoing with the Office of the Attorney General, I shouldn't comment in the event that I say something contrary to what is being put forth officially on behalf of the government, as far as what those recommendations are. Speaking, what I said generally, what I said previously, Mr. Hauser, was speaking in generally for other hotel properties or properties that are private, that see a lot of people move through them.
Understood. I just wanted to give
a
you
restaurant or a hotel property.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that we take security at the highest level of that hotel, and we've had those doors on lockdown for as long as I can remember. This is definitely not a recent thing. But yeah, the hotel has always had, as long as I've been there, we've had everything on key control access. In addition, I know there was a comment made about the cameras. The cameras we have are state of the art at that hotel. So it's something that I take a great pride in. When Metro detectives showed up there, we had data that we were pulling for them, burning for them digitally, and from every angle that they could have possibly asked for within the building.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. In respect for everyone's time, we're just going to take just one more minute on this, get questions from the community. I see Gigi hand is raised.
That's Gloria Garcia, Van Ness Main Street.
Oh, hey, hi, Gloria. Gloria, would you like
Yes, hi, sorry. Yeah, I really want to thank Lieutenant Amadeo for his responsiveness. We've had several walkthroughs now in your short tenure. I also want to thank the ANC for raising this and bringing the days in to this table. I speak with two hats. I live at 4444 Connecticut Avenue. I've been there for 20 years. And I have to say that the calls are majority days in, because there is the days in, there's Zips, there's Burger King, there's Bread First, and there's the Hastings. So we're talking a very limited, range of businesses that are being called. I also wear the Van Ness Main Street hat, and so I deal with the businesses constantly. And I have to say that the days in has gone downhill for the past 2 years. The past 2 years, and whether you want to call it pandemic, but it is a property and a management that has not been responsive to the community. I've been raising this alarm for over a year now. Over a year. I've asked them to fix their lights, the blue lights. I've asked them, I've had a conversation with Jamie Hauser about the goings on, the loitering. We have 65 small businesses and other large businesses on the corridor. And the Days Inn is the only business that has loitering and has had these issues. So I really urge Jamie and his management team to really look at the policies that have created the situation, because it is affecting the other businesses. And I have daily complaints from the other businesses, from Uptown, Acacia, IPK. So I really, really urge Jamie to really look inside the company and come up with a solution as to, what is happening on that property, because it's not fair to MPD. It's not fair to the other businesses. And I am really, really, really upset that it has come to loss of life after a year of trying to bring attention to this issue. So as a Van Ness Main Street Executive Director, I speak on behalf of my board, as well as a resident of that block. There's something has to give. And I really hope that Jamie is listening to what's happening right now, because this has to stop. We cannot have another 20-year-old die on that property. Okay, it's not veterans having a night there. It's not people coming off the metro and selling drugs. I've been told all of this by Jamie. This is something inherently wrong with the management of the property and the policies in place. So I am really, really asking, as a resident and as the executive director of Van Ness Main Street, for something to change before we have more loss of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Jamie and Lieutenant Amadeo, if you can give your closing statements, and then we'll move on to committee reports. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Lieutenant Amadeo. This is a problem that we've had through the entire community. I agree with Gloria. And I do believe that what I've seen in the past 3 weeks now with the MPD and Lieutenant Amadeo's help with getting more of a police presence in the neighborhood has definitely helped move people along. And I just want to continue to keep the door open for MPD and work closely with them in any way we can to make the neighborhood better and safer for everyone involved.
Thank you, Lieutenant Amadeo.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner David. Thank you, Mr. Hauser. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak about this. What I can say to go back to what I had said about disrupting the environment or whatever the undesired activity may be. I know I had mentioned lighting, surveillance, or whatnot, but even things like the removal of that knee wall outside the Days Inn property specifically, that might lend itself to people not loitering. Even things like the covered entrance could lend itself to folks lingering to escape the elements. So when you look at that, when you weigh that, you have to weigh the convenience of your guests and the ability for your guests to say escape the elements, but it also can invite people loitering. So it's things like that you may have to look at how you might be able to disrupt the environment to make it less conducive to loitering. And as far as following up, we will do our best to decipher that data that we have from OUC versus what we as the police department have actually reported. And Commissioner David, I could get that to you if you wouldn't mind disseminating that to your fellow commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Lieutenant Amadeo. Thank you, Jamie Hauser. We really appreciate we appreciate the update. Now we would like to move on to committee reports. Is anyone from Streets and Sidewalks here to give an update?
Yes, I am here. It's Bob Dealing. Well, earlier in the meeting, of course, we dealt with a lot of streets and sidewalks issues I won't go over again, but suffice to say that the committee is doing a lot of work these days. We welcome new members. If anyone in the meeting is interested, please send an email to me or any commissioner, I'm sure would be happy to put you in touch with me. And we meet every second Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. We try to limit our meetings to an hour if we can. The other issue, of course, that's on the table going forward is the Connecticut Avenue Safety Study implementation. I see Commissioner Christille with a thumbs up sign. We are both continuing to serve on the CAC, the Community Advisory Council, for that study, and we will continue to report back to the commissioners on that. So I will stop there. If anyone has questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Bob. Is there anyone from Parks and Watersheds Committee?
I think Erica Rosenberg, the chair, couldn't make tonight's meeting.
Okay, thanks. Can any of the commissioners give an update or no? All right. Schools and universities.
I don't think Tavon is on, but I can speak for her. What I can say is that we are meeting on February 28th. So if you're free to join us, please, you can email me or you can email Commissioner Appa as well. We're going to start working on budget ideas for the school budgets. The DCPS school budgets just got out. They came out on, I think last week actually. So trying to find common space on that, as well as some of the updates that I believe one person mentioned earlier, I think GRP was mentioning about updates on Howard Law. We're still working on conversations with them regarding on the master plan as well as updates on the schools in the area. So, I mean, that's looking to be a continuing process.
Thank you, Commissioner Tenderick. Is Zach still on? Is anyone from Housing and Neighborhoods Committee?
So Mr. Tashman had to leave, but the next meeting of the Housing Neighbors Committee is going to be on, I guess it must be Tuesday, March 1st. And I think it's at 7 o'clock, but they had their first meeting and they've got some good energy. And again, kind of touching on this issue of housing affordability and housing security, they're really interested in that. So they'll be working on that, and hopefully bringing information and recommendations to us throughout the year.
Thank you, Commissioner Christil. So that'll be it for the committee reports. Now we're moving on to community, the community forum. Would anyone like to give an update? I see Juanita is on. Gloria still on. Okay, so Juanita, then Gloria.
Thank you. Excuse me. Chairwoman Davis, I appreciate your leadership, and you've been doing a great job, so thank you. So a few things. The university will be celebrating our Founders Day this Thursday, February 17th at 10 a.m. It's at the Theater of the Arts. Mayor Bowser will be our keynote speaker, and Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, excuse me, will be receiving an honorary degree. So we would invite the community to please come and join us. It is an in-person event, but it's also going to be streaming online for anyone who cannot make it in person. And then secondly, on this Saturday, February 19th, we'll have the naming ceremony of the Dr. Edwin Bancroft Henderson Sports Complex at 11 a.m., which is our current athletic center, but it will be the second named building on campus. Our first, obviously, is our law school, but this will be our second named building on campus, so we're very excited about that. And then lastly, the next Community Campus Task Force meeting will be held on Monday, March 1st at 6:30 p.m. And I'll be sending out a notice to the commissioners and as well to Venice Main Street and to Forest Hill Connection so that they can get that information out to the community. So that is all I have. Thank you very much, Commissioner David and all of our commissioners.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Gloria.
Great. I just want to thank the ANC for their grant last year. And we're happy to announce that next week, weather permitting, our banners, our streetlight Van Main Street branded banners will be installed from Van Ness Street up to Nebraska Avenue. We have a total of 28 banners being installed. So we did preview them and announce them and launch them in December. So we're hoping that that is really going to give the neighborhood an incredible pop and pride in what we stand for as a educational, cultural, and very green, community. We have some other events. We have our the two events that we have right now are April 9th is our Books and Blossoms, celebrating the Cherry Blossom Festival. And we're having our pop-up bookstore with Turning the Page. And then on May 7th, we hope that that is the first date of the farmers market. We're working with UDC right now to square off the dates, but that'll be our spring pop-up. So we're gonna bring more vendors like we did for the holiday pop-up and Art All Night. We also have, working collaboratively with UDC, we have our movie nights, set for June, July, and then Art All Night. So we'll have 2 nights in June, 2 nights in July. So we'll be utilizing the UDC amphitheater again to bring the community together outdoors and have some, inspirational movies. So that's what I have for now. But the big news is the banners that will be going up hopefully next week, weather permitting.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Tracy, then Stan, Commissioner Wall. Right after Tracy. Tracy Johnson.
Up here I am. Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. I just wanted to encourage the commissioners and the committee chairs to promote their meetings on the various listservs. The ANC meeting is on the Cleveland Park listserv. I don't think that's sufficient because we have people in this community who also consider themselves more part of the Tenleytown community and also the Chevy Chase community. And I would like to request that the meeting notices also go to the Chevy Chase community listserv at groups.io and also the Tenleytown listserv on groups.io. And also, I mean, some of the commissioners make a big effort at all these meetings to promote the community meetings. And again, I think it would be great to have those noticed on the listservs as well.
Thank you, Tracy. I'll follow up with you on those listservs. Thank
Sure,
you.
I'll happily send you links to all of those.
Thank you. Commissioner Wall.
Yeah, actually, just a quick announcement that someone had posted in the chat earlier. Our neighbor Sal Salvaggio to announce Iona Senior Services. They are a grantee from the Department of DC Department of Aging and Community Living, and they provide a wide range of senior programming and support services. So I think that's something we should add to our website, just so people that are aware of those resources in terms of events and support. But just wanted to call attention to that as a resource to folks that might be on this call that have an interest in that. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Wall. I see Commissioner Alex, and then I see a P.
Yes. Am I still on? Okay. Yes. I have a quick question for Juanita Gray. I know there was a question earlier from, I think, P about UDC housing and the student housing and the Fannie Mae building. So I wasn't sure if you could speak to if there's any updates about student housing for at that location.
So I can speak about that particular location. We are no longer looking at that for student housing. Right now, that space is being used for our academic department. So our causes, the College of Agriculture, Urban Sustainability, Environmental Sciences, our College of Arts and Sciences. We have our IT, Information Technology department there, and some other offices. So that space is no longer being looked at for student housing. We are currently looking at, and I always get, and I've been here for years, but I get I get building 41 and building 44 confused. But we're looking at space at building 41, and then we're looking at space on where our current tennis court is. So that's where we are right now. And that's all I have to add to that particular question.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Juanita.
Thank you.
Juanita, I'm glad to hear you get building numbers confused, because I always get the building numbers confused when I visit campus.
I do it all the time.
Makes me feel so much better.
Thank you. And then there's P.
Yes, I'm here. I was one to ask you about sorry, this is my first meeting. I didn't know you took community meetings or questions at the end. I just want the sidewalk, as I said, at 3003 that I've been trying to get fixed for the past 6 years. How do you go about doing that? I thought there was the ANC that was supposed to carry that forward. Am I mistaken on that?
No, I think that's correct. And P, I think it's Yvette. Is that correct? Yvette, yes. So I apologize for not responding to you via email. I will definitely respond to you via email. We'll definitely take that on, and I can work with Bob Dealing to address that sidewalk issue.
I mean, you see it every day, and I've been, even before you were sworn in, and I was hoping that Carolyn, who ironically enough lived on VZ and didn't know that trouble was on VZ, and through heavy lifting got that done. And I've been emailing you about this and never got a response. So I knew it was the mayor's initiative. So I didn't know whether to go through the initiative, the mayor's, call the mayor's attention to it. But for years, having dealt with the ANC, it was made because they wanted community input.
And we definitely appreciate that. I definitely hear your feedback here. Again, I will work with Bob Dealing to make sure that sidewalk is prioritized, and so to get that fixed, and we'll move on that very quickly. So I appreciate you bringing that up in this
Now,
meeting.
the next thing is, you mentioned about your meetings with security. I met with Josh too. As you know, all those building was totally unsecured, and it was I was not When I came back from the lockdown, or in the middle of the lockdown, I was shocked.
And definitely understand
And I've
that.
been waiting for somebody.
And
the,
I just,
the tennis association. I met with Josh the day before the stabbing, and I said, this is getting ready to pop. I walked every inch of that place. I tried to get him involved with the police officers before officer, and thank God the officer Amadeo is now here. So you said you met him in your last Zoom call, and I would strongly suggest you put up in the mailroom when you're having a call, because not everybody has access to Zoom.
sure,
You had 7 people on the call. The next time you had 20.
Sorry,
you gotta post on the summary of it and keep people involved. Because just like, I mean, does it have to draw blood to get people? I mean, I don't understand.
So
Commissioner Appa, I apologize, ma'am. Can I jump in? This is Juanita, and I am speaking as a resident who lives in 3003 Van Nest. I'm on West 1110. I've lived here for almost 9 years now, and I can say that the space that the resident is speaking on is owned by the building and not the city. So that backspace where there's a lot of issues with the ground and the tile and not tile, the concrete and all that.
Sidewalk, yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's the building, that's not the city. And in terms of security, I agree. There needs to be more done with security. But at the same time, understanding that we live in the city and we're right next to a metro station, and unfortunately things happen, and I know that our MPD officers are patrolling and they're doing their best. So I think that we as residents need to, I don't know, just appreciate what's happening with our MPD officers and know that they're doing the best that they can to secure the safety of all of us. I feel safe in this building. Like I said, I've lived here for 9 years. I don't see myself moving anywhere else besides buying in Ward 3. So I appreciate everything that everyone is doing. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Juanita.
Thank you, Juanita. We'll follow up. So is that so Commissioner Alpa and I will follow up with you and get you connected as well with our committees who are working on the issue as well. Because you seem that you'd be excellent for getting engaged with our committees. So we'll take that up. We are now at the end of our community forum, and we're ready to adjourn. Can anyone make a motion? Or would anyone like to make a motion? We could just
So moved.
We're ending early tonight?
All right, all in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Awesome, and the motion moves. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we appreciate everyone who joined us and learned about what we do and got updates from us as well. See you next month. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Chairwoman David. You did a phenomenal job. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to future meetings.
Thank you so much, Juanita. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, same, Claudette. Good job. Great meeting.
Thank you. Good night.